Hi, everybody. Dr. Joe here, and I want to cover a topic today that I think a lot of people out there get incorrect. And I'm talking about knee valgus. Just a quick reminder, or if you don't know, knee valgus is the inward movement of the knee relative to the foot position. So if you squat and your knee drops in, that's valgus. And most healthcare professionals will tell you that's always bad, it's always dangerous. And a lot of you might even remember this video or picture of RG3 at the NFL Combine. And a lot of people say, well, this is exactly why his knee got injured. And it might be. But for a second, let me talk to you about some valgus positions that I'm not worried about, because there are certain qualifiers we have to make in order for me to become worried about them. Because I know I can't stand in front of a top level golfer, professional tennis player, complain about their knee valgus unless I know it's a problem. Because all that does is distract from the other goals and sometimes can actually hurt performance. Let's take a look. Here we're going to take a look at Ben Shelton's serve. This is actually going to be a 149-mile-an-hour serve, which is a massive, massive serve. But if you watch that front knee on him, we'll watch once in full speed and then we'll slow it down. You're going to see a position that a lot of people would worry about. So I'm going to try and pause it there. And if you look at his knee, you see the hips out here, the knee is in this position. And a lot of people are going to see this and they're going to scream, Valgus, Valgus, Valgus. He's going to tear his ACL, injure his knee, etc. But let's take it back for a second. If we look at his knee relative to his foot, and when we're talking about valgus, we are talking about the distal most portion of it, which is his foot, relative to his knee. And if you draw a line straight down, his knee's actually outside his foot a shade. Really, it's only valgus if you start taking the hip into the equation, which you do need to do for valgus, but then the camera view becomes a little misleading. Because he happens to have his right hip coming toward the camera, and his left hip going away from it. So he's actually got his pelvis quite a bit rotated through here, which makes it appear even more like there's a huge amount of valgus in that knee. But I bet if we line the camera up, maybe at this line, we'd already start to see a dramatic reduction in the appearance of valgus here. The other thing is, in this initial toss, he's not driving through that leg strongly yet. So anytime we're talking about valgus, we're really a lot more worried when it's a loaded valgus versus an unloaded valgus. Now, yes, he does have his weight through there, but he's in a stable position. It's not a massive amount of force just yet, so I feel pretty good about his knee position here. And this is kind of a separate topic, but if we look at the coil and the hips here, it also sets him up to generate a ton of force. So it would definitely be something I'd hesitate to change, even if he were to come with knee pain, because he's served this way for a while and has not had the issue. As we let it advance a little bit, so now he's gone into this drive, and what happens with the drive? Look, now we're starting to get a more straight position throughout. His hips have started to uncock, so now we're a little bit more perpendicular to the baseline, and all of a sudden it doesn't appear like nearly as much valgus. Another thing we could do is take his upper body, and if we orient it with his hips and have it flat or straight here in a straight line, then it looks like even less valgus. So part of this is that his spine angle is leaned backward, his front shoulder has risen up, and again, we're starting to see that as you dig a little bit deeper, that valgus is maybe occurring here, but probably a lesser degree than we would have thought, and not in an unloaded position, and when the force production comes, he's in a pretty good position. And I think that's why we have to be a little bit careful with valgus. Now we see this in other sports and examples too, and I'm going to get to that next. Let's take another example. And I'll let you watch this gentleman's knees as he squats. You can definitely see that inward movement associated with valgus. Now, while I let you watch a replay, I'm going to tell you that this is someone who's the best in the world at what they do. And when someone's the best in the world, you can automatically start with the assumption that they probably are doing a lot of the things, if not all of the things, correctly. So what happens at the bottom of the squat is there's a small rotation in your pelvis. And what that does is positions your adductor longus a muscle that runs from inside of your pelvis to inside of your knee and turns it into a hip extender. Above a certain position, we don't get much of a contribution from the adductor longus for hip extension. Now, herein lies the issue. That muscle that extends the hips also pulls the knee inward. So what happens is we get to the bottom of a squat often, we engage that adductor longus, adductor magnus, and while it helps drive out of the bottom of the squat, it also pushes the knees in while doing it. Now he's cognizantly trying to push his knees out, which is why as soon as he gets out of the hole, he corrects that position. But he does have valgus during the movement. If you take a world-class lifter and you try and coach all valgus out of their movement, you're going to take their ability to use that adductor away from them. You're probably going to cost them weight they can squat, and you're probably going to lose your job. And again, this is why we have to understand some of the finer details of movement and what's going on. We can't just draw blanket statements like valgus is always going to be a problem, no matter where, what, how, when, etc. Before I sign off, let's just go back to the first picture I showed, which is RG3 landing and taking off from a jump. So in this case, this is a valgus I'm worried about. It's dynamic, it's fast, it appears to be uncontrolled, which increases the risk for injury. The point isn't that valgus doesn't exist or that it's always bad. The point is that valgus in certain situations is not as problematic as we make it out to be. And if we're going to be movement experts, we have to be able to distinguish the difference between the two and decide when a hands-off approach is more appropriate.